Islam Makhachev takes on former champion Charles Oliveira at UFC 280 this October. The pair hold a ton of submission wins between them, with Oliveira bagging 21 submissions, whilst Islam has a little catching up to do with 10, although Charles is Brazilian, so we can let Islam off. Today, we're discussing Islam Makhachev and every opponent he has managed to tap out across his career so far. Stay with us. First up, we're talking the Dan Hooker submission. Islam took on the durable Hooker at UFC 267 back in February and finished him in the very first round. The pair were feeling each other out when the Kiwi went to throw a low kick but appeared to stumble. Makhachev didn't miss a beat and changed levels superbly, taking Hooker down to the mat. Islam used his superior ground game to maneuver Dan into position, eventually attacking his right arm. Hooker appeared to know what was coming, but the tough Russian simply overpowered him on the floor before straightening the arm out, then twisting it behind Hooker's back, signaling the end of the fight. The win was his 9th in a row and announced to the world there was a new star in the lightweight division. What did you make of Islam's win over Hooker? The Thiago Moises win is up next. Stay tuned. Islam's first UFC main event ended the way many thought it might. When the Dagestani got his arm raised at the end, Moises was second best throughout the entire fight, and it appeared as though Makhachev could simply take him down at will. In the 4th round, Islam again demonstrated his superior grappling prowess by lifting Moises into the air and slamming him to the ground. From here, it was always going to be a tough position for the Brazilian to get out of, and although he is a BJJ black belt himself, Islam is a different animal. After a short period in top position, Islam found his way onto Moises' back right up against the cage. The viewers and commentary team couldn't seem to figure out what was happening, but when Islam rolled him, it was clear as day that his arm was under the neck of Thiago. A routine rear naked choke victory. Who is the best submission artist in your opinion? Next up is Drew Dober. There's no doubting Dober's toughness, but coming up against someone like Islam Makhachev is a whole different ballgame. The pair met at UFC 259 back in March 2021, with Islam getting, again, the job done. It took him a couple of rounds to feel Dober out, but he almost certainly still won every round. Whilst Dober put in a decent amount of himself, Islam's technique and ability to find trips was the difference. Whilst finishing the 2nd round in top position, it didn't take the Russian long in round 3 to take Dober down again. A visibly tired Dober wasn't able to defend the arm triangle as Makhachev placed his left arm around his opponent's neck and his own head under Dober's shoulder, simply squeezing and suffocating him with his own shoulder, a magnificent use of BJJ yet again from the imperious Islam. What did you make of this one? Cajun Johnson is coming through now. Stay with us. Islam didn't need long to dismantle Johnson to score his 4th win in a row at UFC on Fox Alvarez versus Poirier 2 back in 2018. The Russian got the job done inside 1 round as the Canadian Johnson succumbed to a vicious armbar. The fight opened with the pair feeling each other out, but throwing minimal shots. However, Makhachev did land a decent body kick. Eventually, Makhachev was able to get Johnson up against the cage with a single leg, soon turning into a double. With the Russian securing the takedown, he trapped his opponent's feet, not allowing him to get back up, before settling in 3/4 mount and going to work. The Russian eventually moved into full mount, and it didn't take him long to transition into position to attack Johnson's right arm. He moved into the classic armbar position with relative ease, before straightening Cajun's arm out, with the tap following almost immediately. Who is the best armbar expert in your opinion? Let us know below. We have Leo Kuntz up next. Islam's first fight in the UFC took place at UFC 187 back in 2015. Appearing on the Johnson vs. Cormier card, Islam signals his intentions by locking in a rear naked choke victory over his opponent. The Russian showed what was to come throughout his UFC career by taking Kuntz down with a superb Sambo-style throw in the 1st. Into the 2nd, and the pair came out swinging. However, it soon went to the mat and Islam ended up on his opponent's back, locking in a tight body triangle. Whilst Kuntz was kneeling, the writing was on the wall as he already had his arm under his opponent's neck before before using his weight to pull Leo to the floor, straightening him out. Kuntz knew there was no way out and tapped almost as soon as Islam locked in the rear naked choke. What did you guys make of this dominant performance? Give us your thoughts below. Ivica Trusek is up next. Stay with us. In Islam's last fight before joining the UFC, he went up against Trusek at M1 Challenge 51. Although in a ring as opposed to an octagon, Islam displayed the dominant performance we would come to expect from him under his later UFC career, taking his opponent down seemingly at will in the first 2 rounds. In the 3rd round, Makhachev again showed his superior wrestling and grappling skills, dominating his man from top position, raining down blow after blow to the defenseless Trusek. As his opponent lifted his head to get away from Makhachev's heavy blows, Islam swooped and quickly put his left leg behind the head of Trusek, locking in the inverted triangle to score one of the most impressive submission finishes on his resume. What did you guys make of this one? Next up, it's the Yuri Ivlev fight. Taking place in a hexagon as opposed to the regular octagon, Islam took on Ivlev at M1 Challenge 49 and wasted no time whatsoever in getting the job done. With just 1:49 left on the clock, Islam submitted Ivlev, but he had his man in trouble on the ground inside 1 minute. In full mount, Makhachev rained down huge punch after huge punch in what really should have been stopped around the 2-minute mark. Ivlev survived for another minute or so, however, but the referee showed no sign of stopping the fight even with Makhachev in full mount and dropping bomb after bomb. Ivlev had to do something and attempted to get out of the position by turning and trying to throw the Russian off him. However, Makhachev simply caught one of his arms and straightened himself out on his front, trapping Ivlev's arm under him. He must have wondered what he had to do to get the fight stopped, as the referee didn't seem interested in saving Ivlev from punishment. What did you make of this one? We're talking Anatoly Karmakin next. Stay with us. Another fight, another Islam Makhachev first-round armbar submission. This one came at Lions Fight 2 in December 2011. After the two had a short period of feeling each other out, Islam attempted a slam, but Karmakin actually landed on his feet. However, the weight and momentum of Makhachev eventually dragged him to the canvas. With Islam raining down punches from a dominant top position over a prolonged period, he's also trapped his opponent right arm with his legs. Karmakin was twisting and turning in an attempt to break free, but this only gave Islam the room he needed to quickly transition and attack the arm. Whilst it isn't obvious from the footage that Islam actually had the armbar locked in, it went down in the books as an armbar submission. However, looking at the footage, it appears that Karmakin may have tapped simply due to exhaustion and the truly terrible position he seemed to be in. And finally, it's Martiros Grigorian. Siberian Fight Championship 1 in Tomsk, Russia saw a fresh-faced Islam Makhachev take on the experienced Martiros Grigorian. In the very first fight coming together, Islam had showed what was to come throughout the rest of his career, taking his opponent down with one of those impressive sambo throws. After a short period of Makhachev in top position, the pair briefly split and Makhachev got back to his feet before regaining his position on top shortly after. As they threatened to spill outside of the ring, the referee brought them back to the center. This was exactly what Islam would have wanted, but shortly after, the referee inexplicably stood them up. He clearly had no idea about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and at the time, it takes to set up different submissions. However, it didn't take long for Islam to get his opponent back on the ground, and from there, he wasn't going to give up position again. He locked in the rear naked choke, and it was good night for Grigorian. What is the best submission of Makhachev's career in your opinion? As usual, thanks for tuning in today, and remember to stop by again next time. Also, why not like and share and subscribe to our channel? Bye guys.